we're going to approve the minutes from March 14th, the March 23rd Department of Ed meeting, and the March 29th meeting. So the three of us, should we do them one at a time, the approvals, or all together?
Either way is fine with me. What was that, sorry, did you say the dates and everything?
March 14th, March 23rd Department of Ed meeting, and March 29th.
I have a question about the minutes.
I can't hear you.
She has a question about the minutes.
Sorry, I have to work through.
Okay, thanks.
I just have a question about the minutes because we don't ever see them before they get posted. So, just wondering, you know, if there's stuff that we feel we left out, important discussion that is left out of the minutes, how do we correct that?
That's a good question. I mean, this is a very, it doesn't usually happen. Right? So, I mean, the board can approve them and put them up, and if there were any comments, things that you want changed, I say just, send us, all three of us, an email. In fact, the whole administration if you want, and then we can put that in as an addendum or something like that.
My email has not been put up on the website yet, but it's the same format as the others. It's first initial, last name, that Croydon, USA, that.
For NIST, school
For
district.
NIST.
Yep.
That one.
That works. So all three at once?
So I have a question, I'm sorry, I know that we discussed that, but the minutes that I saw, it looked like the minutes from the 29th.
You saw minutes online
You have the
from the 29th?
March.
Is that one the code supposed to do it?
I see the 21st and the 23rd on the website.
Okay. You said the Department of Ed ones?
One. The meeting that we had with them. So
Is that the Zoom meeting that you and Aaron had with them?
correct. So since it was a quorum there, we decided that we would post the notes from the meeting so you could all see what we discussed there.
Okay, when did you post those? Because
We didn't. We're voting on them tonight.
We're voting on approving those minutes tonight. So that
We
they
post
can-
them after they're approved. That's just what we've always done. And that's what Angie has asked what we do if the public has some comment or change that they want, if they feel certain things aren't represented.
Okay, so once you post those as your approval, because the minutes that I have seen that you have posted they're leaving out a lot of information.
Do you
So
want to?
I just want it noted.
So,
What
I mean,
sort of information is
yeah, I mean, you can write to us with the information. I mean, we can try to capture every last thing that was said, but that's not, typically,
Yeah.
school board meetings, you're required to just take note of the votes so that you can know what votes happened. When I was taking minutes at that first meeting, I tried to get down as much as I could, but
Right.
that was, the best I could do. If you want to make notes, as I said to Angie, send an email to all of us with what you think should be added or changed or whatever. And we've never done that before. We don't have a policy about that. But
Okay, so the final minutes, so I just want to make sure, even though you're submitting them to the state as final,
we don't submit minutes to the state. We just post them on the website so everybody can access them.
doesn't the state need, like, if they require minutes, you have like,
They get for the district meeting. They get minutes, not for the school board meeting.
okay, so as long as you are able to amend them or make additions, make addendums,
We can do that.
then, okay.
Another hand? But I want to hold public comment till after we actually get business done today, but if it's still about the minutes, then go ahead.
Well, I'll wait.
Okay, thank you.
It is about the minutes, but I'll wait.
Okay. Okay. All right, so, I will make a motion to approve the 3 sets of minutes. Can we get a second?
Second.
Any discussion or changes that either of you wanted to make to them?
I didn't see anything on
So nobody can hear on Zoom or whatever it is.
The internet just cut out, but it's trying to reconnect.
so no, I didn't hear your answer to that. You didn't have any changes?
Oh, no.
Okay, yeah, so all those in favor of approving the minutes,
Aye.
say aye. All right, then it is unanimous, thank you. I will share them, can you call and ask her to put them on the website? Excuse me, when she can get them. So I am being from references again, okay. I have a little bit of housekeeping to do, so first, we have a sort of a short agenda tonight, so, and I apologize if this was confusing. On the notice it said public educational meeting for Kai and Brenda, but really all that meant was for us to set up a time for it, figure out who can do it, when we can do it, okay? I did have a couple of questions about that, so apologies for not being clear. We are going to finalize a draft letter to send to receiving schools, and our plan was to look at the $800,000 budget. So we, as you both know, Beth submitted an MS-22 to the state, to DRA, that met the $800,000 limit, but all she did was she reduced each budget line to, I'm saying this so everybody hears it, but she reduced each budget line by 53 or 4%, whatever that number was. But that doesn't really match a plan for moving on if we have to stick with the $800,000. So I wanted to work on that, but we need Beth, and an hour ago Beth emailed us to say that she can't be here tonight. So we're gonna have to postpone that until a meeting when she's here. And there's gonna be no shortage of meetings. So that is the story. After that, we'll have a public forum. We're gonna limit that public forum to 1/2 hour at the most. And that is about it. And as you will hear later again, the budget hearing is Friday, April 8th, this Friday in this room. So housekeeping. So it came to my attention that nobody asked Bruce Jasper, the moderator, to see if he was available for the May 7th district meeting. So I called him to see if he was, and he is. So that's good news. I'm not sure what we would have done if he couldn't make it, right? We would have had to postpone, because he actually couldn't do it this weekend, so it's good. All right, so the next thing is setting up the educational meetings for Kai and Brenda. So, the guy, his name,
Yeah.
from Kai, who's available next week, and I don't know, Erin, if you had any information from Rochelle?
Yeah, I haven't asked her, but if we want to put something on for next week, I can send an email and see if we can find a day that works for both of them.
Okay. All right, so Erin, you're gonna do that?
Yep.
When you email them, can you ask them what they need for internet speak? Or when you ask them about this education position?
We could point out that that's something that they should bring up in the,
Okay.
whatever
Yeah,
briefing
I
they
just-
come with.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we can.
That's actually
great.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Oh,
She's-
sorry.
Sorry, she's wanting to make sure that Kai and or Brenda points out what sort of internet speeds they will need if they were to implement their service here.
That's good. Actually, I wouldn't mind hearing other ideas or things that we should ask them to bring.
I think we've got one right here.
So they're still having an issue with the Zoom?
Yes,
Yeah,
I have not
still
come in yet.
connecting.
I don't know if there's something with the internet here, with the Wi-Fi.
Well,
Might
then I
have
think we
to
need to
start.
stop until we figure it out, because
There are
this is a
people
public
waiting to watch.
meeting and it's been announced as public, so
No, the Zoom is back on.
Zoom is back.
interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Is this like in general questions we're hoping they'll be able to answer? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, sure.
So, providing some sort of like school model, so, all the above, like, if kids need some sort of counseling, or they need a referral, or, school nurses, or, what happens when, there's some sort of possible altercation literally in the classroom, like, all those things that, public schools provide in the classroom and, educational settings. We have like that type of stuff on there, 'cause it's all super important.
We are writing them down.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Sorry, I have another thing to ask them
Yeah.
about. Do they provide any computers for the students that will be joining the school?
Okay, good questions.
And what's like the cut on the break, like, is this
what curriculum is?
Curriculum? Anybody else yet?
I'm sorry, just, and I know this is jumping ahead, and we talked previously about like, through like 12th grade, right, there's different options, right? So what sort of, guidance, counseling, career planning, and all that type of stuff for kiddos who eventually are gonna go to college and whatever it might look like for them, that type of stuff as well.
This has to do with questions. Since this isn't, it's like not totally online, there's a lot of project-based and whatever, I'm concerned about the supplies. And would that have another place in our already low budget, or is that part of the printer and hyper? And also, the high accreditation.
Those two.
Again, they can't hear.
Well, that's because we're throwing off again. The Wi-Fi is just not staying on.
No, the Zoom meeting's on.
I'm not,
But they're not on.
mine says connecting, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm
What is
witnessing.
your saying?
It's on, it says it's on.
Do you have any people on?
Yeah, 15 people.
Okay, except me?
I did just get this email from Nicole, did you guys see this one?
No,
The
I'm not.
link, the link that you provided for tonight's meeting was the Google Meet link that she runs?
No, it's a Zoom meeting.
Okay. She says that she's on the Google Meet now, but needs Aaron to join so they can hear what's happening. So
So she
I think
provided
there's,
the Google Meet?
I think there's conflicting
Different
information
nights.
out
So,
there.
you know what? I'll tell you what, Aaron, get on the Google thing, give them the Zoom link and tell them all to get on Zoom. Because to have two is just a little crazy. Is that right?
I mean, this Zoom is, hopefully Google's more stable. I don't know if it's Zoom or the internet connection, but it's cut out again on me.
That's a good question.
Well, let's try Google.
Should we get them go?
I do feel like Google Meet sometimes has a better outcome than Zoom. I don't know, like it's different things I've done.
My inbox isn't even loading, so I think it's the internet here. We keep trying that.
Let me try to get a Google link for me.
So I hope that, this is a good, gives you a good idea of
Example.
how good, the online model is going to work in this town. Honestly, I mean, my internet didn't work all week, and my daughter had to go to my sister's house to try to get some stuff done. It's horrible.
It should.
Pods and the.
I'm not getting on Google Meeting either, by the way. It's the Wi-Fi. Yeah.
I'm getting up and.
Yep.
I can't even open the
And the more
document.
people, I think the more people that are on it too, it also makes it lower. So if there's a bunch of people on your Wi-Fi, it makes it slower, so it's maybe harder for you to connect to Facebook TV.
Sure, I mean, we haven't had a problem here before, so there's something else going on here, right?
I'm just saying, well, the internet's bad right now, like mine didn't work at home today, so, I mean.
Okay.
I just have, so the question for, if you can ask the Thai people about how like scholarships would work, right? So when the kids are in public school, they're all eligible for all these different scholarships that go around,
To go to college?
Correct, yeah, so,
Why wouldn't that be the same?
well, I don't know, I mean, if they're learning from.
Okay, it's a question. Okay, that has to do maybe with counseling.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, I'm asking them, that's why I brought up the question.
Okay.
Because I don't know.
This maybe seems like a little silly, but how do they handle, like substitutes or when they have someone out?
Sure, absolutely not.
I was wondering that myself.
These are great. I think this is a great place to start.
So you're writing them down, because obviously it would be better for us to be asking this when they're actually here.
Yeah, but it's great if they come prepared to him with some good questions ahead of time.
Just because we're never.
Yep.
I will read them back to you when we finish with this section too, but yeah, I'm writing them down as we go.
Yeah, any other suggestions, questions for them? See, I want them to bring in their academic achievement and proof of success, so that's what I'm gonna ask them for.
Okay, I just thought of one thing in the back here. It's Chris. Can you ask them if they're used to being in, replacement of the public school, or if they're usually, supplementary? Please.
Good question. You,
I'm also curious what practical application they use, so based on, whatever you're teaching, practical application to, when kids are out in the world, or with different things, what do they offer for that besides just sort of online and by whatever else it might be, what's practical application they offer?
Got it.
That would be great.
And if children have to take meds, because some do have to take meds during the day, are they licensed to take meds?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
If the children need meds of any kind during the day, are they licensed to give those meds, like a public school teacher?
That's a good question.
Well, public school teacher generally isn't licensed to, it's typically the school nurse.
Right.
public school environment.
Well, so like school nurses, okay.
So just from, my experience with one of my children, who had some retention issues when he was young, are there people, the guide or the certified teacher or coach or whatever, are they going to be able to, recognize that there are issues with that and then come up with a plan to help with that? So, my son, qualified for an IEP, and so had some extra services for a couple of years to help with his reading. And so I'm just, do they have something in place to recognize that and then to work with it to help?
And to provide the services, you mean? I mean, that's the
Not necessarily
different
provide a
districts.
service, but like help come up with a plan, recognize what would be.
Identify the problem in the first place.
Right, that I got here is what you meant to, that I was.
Yeah, so just to come up with a plan to help work through that and work out of that.
Great.
What, sorry, what, if any, type of disciplinary plan do people have in place if children do happen to have some sort of disciplinary infraction? I think that there should be at least some sort of plan on what's going to happen should that occur. And a code of conduct. Yeah, I'd like to see at least a code of conduct that they require in the classroom of the students, because discipline, it can't just be oh, well, he did this, and this is what we did.
Noted.
Thank you.
Sorry,
No, I think he wants that down as a question to ask him. I know you said.
What disciplinary plans do you have in place, and do you have a code of conduct? Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think so. Is that good enough then?
Yeah, that'll suffice.
Do you want to take minutes if you want? I'm trying to just do a lot of.
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
You're a secretary over there, right? Not throwing you into the.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a laptop. I'm not gonna be in a position to buy one.
Just wondering if there's like a minimum number of children needed, so if, say, a high schooler were to choose this option, but no one else in the community did, like, how would that work out?
Going back to aside from code of conduct or disciplinary plans for like the students, like also for the guides and how they manage complaints against guides or teachers.
appropriate action is the,
Yes, well,
Will kids be able to play sports? Like right now, they can, play at any school they go to, but if they're at Howard or Prenda, I don't know if sports will be available anywhere.
Probably not.
right,
That
but
would be
actually,
super important, like,
they don't, I'm pretty sure they don't cover, so I don't know about Prenda, but I don't think Kai does, right? Do you remember,
No,
So-
but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily not an option. I know that public schools will allow homeschoolers to join their sports teams, so we have
public
to reach
schools
out.
will allow, I'm sorry, say that again?
Public schools will allow homeschoolers to join their sports teams, so there might be some mechanism where that would be a possibility, but we'd have to look into it.
Oh my.
but would this be considered a homeschool or a public school? Those are two different things.
Not a homeschool, he was giving an example.
Okay.
Angie?
I would be interested in some sort of, what their testing format is, so, what guidelines you have to meet to graduate, if you're a sophomore and you're exceeding, and maybe you can graduate early, or if there's any, what their testing is and how they determine somebody can move on or can't to the next grade, or however they categorize people in this program.
Just a couple of questions, and I'm sorry, I'm really just trying to educate and understand myself about this, and we're talking about educational, individualized learning. So we're saying that there may not be any sports, there may not be any art, there may not be any technical school-like stuff, so if we could put those questions in, because I'm just really confused.
I think those have already been asked.
But that's the point of this, because they don't want to pay, they don't feel that any of this is, any of those things are necessary.
Because I'm super confused on this individualized learning.
Respectfully,
Who-
who
decides?
decides, because he's the one that made the amendment and doesn't feel like those things are important, or we shouldn't pay to teach those.
So that seems definitely like an. I'm just.
So the state standards include some kind of phys ed, some kind of art or music, not both. It's one or the other in the state standards.
So if we're individualizing, then I guess we're just making one heck of a.
What is your question exactly that you want to ask that? So we can do that.
I guess I'm wondering if all those things will be provided because every human sort of has different skills and different things, and if we're talking about individualized learning, yet we're only offering like certain things, we're not really offering individualized learning, we're offering it. And again, I don't know much about it, so I'm just trying to educate myself.
What I can tell you is the district is required to provide those things for school, for the students in the district. I don't know to what extent, I don't know where the requirements are, like fully, but they are required. So if Brenda doesn't do it, or Kai doesn't do it, then there's something else that likely needs to get done.
So that is a great question then.
It's a good question. Yeah.
It's on the list.
Thank you.
Good for now? If you think of anything else, feel free to email it, but we want to send this out pretty soon. And again, you can come to that session and you can ask them all the questions you want, right? This is just to get them prepared. You don't have to be, complete right now. I know, I'll think of something later too. I know you all will.
Do you want me to read back the questions that I had?
So you go ahead and
I would just like to request that you actually reach out to the area schools, like make that.
All right, so you're really talking about
Before you reach out to President High,
Thank you.
if you could stop interrupting me, if you could please reach out to the area schools. You just said you haven't done that yet. So reach out to them, make that a priority,
So that is
and
the
then make
next-
this like your third or fourth priority. That would be great.
That is the next item on the agenda. So let's get past this one and then we can get on to that.
So on the list, I think I got everything. I've got internet speeds, nurse coverage, and other items typically provided by schools. Are computers provided for students and what type of platform? What is the exact curriculum?
I'm gonna change that first one. So yes, if they could have a laptop they can bring home. That was a specific part of that.
Okay, what guidance, counseling, and career planning will be available for later grades? Will we be able to afford supplies for project-based learning? Is CHI accredited? Will children still be eligible for scholarships to colleges? How do they handle substitute teachers if a guide can't make it in? How will it work with it replacing a school instead of supplementing it? What is offered for practical / real-world material? Are they licensed to provide medication if children need medication during the day? Will the teacher, guide, coach be able to recognize if a student is having retention issues and then come up with a plan to help with that? What disciplinary action and code of conduct do they have in place for if and when discipline is required? Minimum number of children needed. For example, what if only one child chooses CHI? Is there a code of conduct for guides and how do they handle complaints against them? Will children be able to play sports? What is their testing format? What are the requirements for graduation, etc.?
Sports, music, and arts.
And then the last one here is how do they provide for or supplement art, physical education, and technical programs?
Okay, and the one that I have that you missed was what's the curriculum that you offer? What does that look like?
What is the curriculum? Yeah, that's the
Yeah, what's
fourth item on the
Oh,
list.
I can hear it, okay, sorry.
Can I just ask one more
Mhm.
question?
Can we just add, asking about what like a sufficient space would be needed as far as what we're looking at for a building or codes?
25 square feet per child.
What?
25 square feet per child.
Is that a secret?
We need to ask, that's for public schools, right? Is that what it-
I'm just telling you, that's what I read on the Prenda website. It's supposed to require a minimum of 25 square feet per child.
If it's a public school, it should probably.
If there's 10 students, you need a 250 square foot dedicated space.
And if there's any other requirements that go along with this.
Was, since they are a for-profit company and we are hiring them to teach our students, are we allowed to say, I want my child to learn this in English, or I want my child to have that gym class, I want my child to have that home ec and learn how to cook? Are we allowed to do that type of, and what types of
That's a great question.
programs?
So what kind of parent involvement is really what you're asking, right?
And what kind of programs they're offering, I guess? I don't know.
Well,
If that's the word.
One of the questions was curriculum.
Okay, so I guess that's, yeah, so you're right. The parent class.
I think more specifically, you're getting to how customizable is the curriculum.
All right, that's right.
Eva?
And again, I know this could go in several different directions in terms of what grade different things go to and so on and so forth, but substance abuse services, because I know we don't like to hear it, but there are a lot of kids start using substances at an insanely young age. So referrals for that, like if that was to come up, how would that be navigated, so on and so forth. Again, I don't know the grades, we talked about different things, but we would be irresponsible if we also didn't discuss that and what would happen in that area and how referrals would get made and where would go and who would be qualified to do what. So,
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. That's a great set of questions, thank you. More questions?
Sorry, just one more that I thought of, as far as like, do they do a vacation schedule, or do they run a normal school year, are the hours about the same? Just like their
Good, sorry, no, that's great. And again, I mean, feel free, do it in the next day or two, send us anything else you think of, because, we do want to get it out, but not before we send the letter to the receiving schools, I know that's important. So I'm gonna, with another, sorry, I didn't see you.
Sorry, I was just trying to catch up and hear things, but did anybody ask about, like, if there's different buildings, like, say, there's like 3 buildings, how is transportation gonna happen? Is it required, all parents supposed to bring their kids, or is there gonna be a bus route still and bringing kids?
Transportation is still something that we would be responsible for on our side. Prenda would be coordinating that.
But we're only required K-8, just that.
RSA 189-6.
Yes, we're only required to transport K-8, so some high school students could
Right, we're just looking at the other comment, that's all.
189:6.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said, you didn't say something, like added to that. Oh, you said for public schools, right?
Right. For school choice, you don't have to provide after 8. If it was public school, then if it's strictly public school, then they do have to provide transportation. Is
If
what
it's
I
a
always
single
understood.
assigned school, that's
Correct.
correct.
So like we were in the area choice with Newport, it was, you had to legally find transportation for the Croydon students to get there. But now that we have school choice, it's only through 8th grade.
Well, no, that's not, I haven't done it at all.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so we only provide transportation currently to Newport. We don't provide it to Sunapee, for example, which is
Right.
also a public school. We have one school, which we call our anchor school, and we just have to see how that goes, and we've always reserved the right to change what we do with that from the beginning. Yeah, and but 8th grade is the future. But I think, Aaron, did you look into it? I don't remember, I don't think, if it was still to Newport, I don't think it costs much more to send high school kids. Right. So, I mean, obviously, we're gonna look at all of that.
Yeah, and here in Mars, if we put down, we left the full transportation budget in.
Alright, so this is more, so we have a draft letter to send to receiving schools. If you have any more comments, please write them down or something, or email them to us, that would be great. Questions to the microphone. And you're gonna contact them to see if they can come out next week and on the same day in the evening, I guess, discuss, right, something like this. Thank you. All right, so we have a draft letter.
So we've made 2 versions. One has more detail than the other. The lawyer has reviewed both copies and it has emailed us feedback, so I guess, do we want to talk about which version it makes sense to use, or do you want to go through all the markup in both versions?
Oh. The markup in the second version is just right out of the first version, and it just, I mean, Newport's the only one who have a written contract, a multi-year contract, so that's why there's a lot of extra stuff in there. But it's it's pretty much the same edit to the second one.
I was generally happy with all of this feedback.
I was too. And did you get a chance, Kevin, to look at it?
Yeah.
Good. And you agree? Yeah. So I might want to just do copy editing on it. That's my eye when I was reading it. There were just periods in other places and whatnot. So I just don't like that.
Yeah, I noticed a couple things too.
Yeah. So I would be happy to take a final edit on it and then send it to everybody.
Okay. Strategically though, I'm just wondering, are we putting, because I know this was asked in an email somewhere, but are we including the number in there or leaving that to in-person discussion? I don't have I guess a strong view on it, but.
I mean, right, if you put it out there, that's it, that's what we got. And if you don't, then maybe you should negotiate differently. I mean, if this is our number and that's it, then I have no problem putting it in, because then they know exactly what they're dealing with it. It's very transparent.
Right, and that was the whole reason that we waited, right? We needed to figure out what number works.
Right.
Why string along
Right.
further than we need to do. You have an opinion? Kevin?
I think we need to get it out there as soon as we can, and
Well,
I think we have to base the numbers on what we have right now.
Right.
And based on the 800,000, 9 is the absolute max that we can do per student for tuition, and I think that should be the conversation.
Right, my only question about that is, we didn't go through this budget with Beth in good detail to make sure that that's still a good number.
That's a terrible number. There's no way you can afford $9,000. Right?
Thank
There's
you.
no way you can. In the $800,000 budget, you're taking $100,000 plus off for special ed. You're taking $67,000 off for transportation, and then whatever you're gonna pay for the administration. That leaves you closer to what, 7,500 maybe? Less?
I think it worked out to like 82.
82.
Yeah.
So not 9,000. So that's it, so then maybe we can't, so maybe we can leave the number out now, so we can get a better number, but we still send a letter. I think the safest thing to do.
Okay.
Sorry, Aaron, you said the special ed number at one of the meetings recently, it was 140,000 or something you thought? Is that what it is?
Something like
I
that.
don't know.
What's the,
I'm sorry?
They can't hear again.
that, well,
Can we move the
internet
microphone,
cut out.
like maybe
No, it's not the mic. The
to
internet
the
just cut
middle?
out. The internet just cut out.
Yes?
144,000.
Thank you.
So in that case, we want to drop the number.
I think we can,
Okay.
but we send everything else out and say we want
Did you say drop?
From the letter.
Just from
No,
the letter.
Yeah, yeah.
Just making sure.
it. Angie, I mean, I would love your comments, I would, but, go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you're trying to negotiate right now, we have no idea what this letter says. It's all of our kids.
I can read it out loud. Do you want me to read it?
Yes, but
Yes.
I want to give you the tuition amount that I just quickly came up with.
Sure, but that's quickly, I really want to go over that before we come up with a number, and I really wanted to do that tonight with her, so that was my goal. So,
Can you read the short version real quick?
the short one first?
Yes.
Sure.
So this is the version that we would send to non-Newport schools because we don't have a contract with them.
Written contract.
Here we go. So, dear Name of Superintendent, I am sure by now you have heard the news that Croydon School District's budget being unexpectedly reduced by 53%. I think it was 54%.
Well, let's get that number right.
I apologize for not reaching out sooner. Please understand we have been working hard to determine what the district would be able to afford, given the new limitations of the budget. As you may imagine, we would like to request a
Discuss. Oh, yeah, discuss.
revision to discuss, or discuss. The May
The
13th
lawyer deleted requested revision. Yeah, sorry.
those revisions are not showing up on this one.
Gotcha. Do you want me to read it? Because mine is showing up
Yeah.
straight up.
Because this one's all jumbled.
All right. As you might imagine, we would like to discuss the May 13th, 2020 unless that comes out of Newport, so that's wrong. Any contract in light of Croydon School District's upcoming budget. We would very much appreciate the opportunity to meet in person and discuss this matter. So that's the short.
Yeah, this one wasn't necessarily meant for any other schools besides Newport. It was two versions. One that had like the actual dollar amount, all the detail, and one that was more just, hey, let's meet.
I think we're right, still referring to a contract that we don't have with the other schools, so that's,
I
so
know,
we have to
but this
edit
was
that.
only written for Newport.
Got it, I didn't, so your draft is only written for Newport.
That's right.
Ah,
I figured it would, the rest would
I see.
be a bit easier.
I didn't understand that.
Or it could be a template.
Gotcha. The other one's longer. And I will read it. This is specifically in Newport. I'm sure by now you've heard the news of Croydon School District's budget being unexpectedly reduced by 53 or 54%. We apologize for not reaching out sooner. Please understand, we've been working hard to determine what the district would be able to afford given the new limitations of the budget. As you might imagine, we would like to request an adjustment to our contracted terms as the Croydon School District can no longer meet, this is one of those typos, the tuition payments as outlined in the May 13th, 2020 contract. We've examined our budget in depth and determined, this is where we say the amount. So we might delete that sentence to get rid of the amount. I can read it, sure. We've examined our budget in depth and have determined that, given the new constraints, we will be unable to commit to tuition amounts exceeding $9,000 per student. Pursuant to RSA 32.8, limitation on expenditures, the Croydon School District cannot be obligated to make tuition payments prior to the appropriation of the funds needed for the payments. And then there's a quote from the RSA. It says, no Board of Selectmen, School Board, Village District Commissioners, or any other officer, employee, or agency of the municipality acting as such shall pay or agree to pay any money or incur any liability involving the expenditure of any money for any purpose in excess of the amount appropriated by the legislative body for that purpose, or for any purpose for which no appropriation has been made, except as provided in RSA 32:9-11. And there's no quote about that. It continues, see also RSA 194:22, contracts between school districts are effective when the districts raise and appropriate money to carry the contract into effect. In fact, the risk of voter failure to raise and appropriate money for the contract was a concern captured in the May 13th, 2020 contract. Specifically, the May 13th, 2020 contract expressly provides a mechanism for the Newport School District to adjust tuition should Croydon School District's voters fail to fund the contract. Then it says, see contract, the actual contract, and any action, the quote is, any action by the legislative body that impacts the budget shall allow Newport the option of adjusting the tuition rate. For these reasons, our contract dated May 13th, 2020 will need to be adjusted. We would very much appreciate the opportunity to meet in person and discuss this matter to determine next steps forward.
As a family that has children tuition to study right now and is still optimistic that this might get turned over, this letter seems to state that we are going with the 800,000 budget.
Well, as of right now,
We're planning on it.
we can't assume.
And I understand that, that's not my question, but thank you. What I was gonna say is, if this gets turned over, then do we go scrambling back to our schools of choice, or are you gonna write a letter and say this is change? I just wanna know what the plan is going forward, rather than sending our joy and gloom to the
That's an interesting point and something that should be added to this letter. Like if the vote goes the other way, then everything is status quo, right?
Well, that's what
I
I'm
mean,
asking.
that's something that we should talk about.
And I just don't want it to be we're closing the doors, we keep you off the roll, then something happens, and you have all these children now, we have to scramble to get back registered to do their schools. So I just wanted to put that in there, that should maybe be mentioned.
And I think we don't necessarily have to get everything in the letter. Of course, this certainly needs to be discussed when we have to meet with them.
No, I think there needs to be something in the letter. I mean, this isn't saying that we have to negotiate. This is if the vote comes out this way, we have to negotiate. I think that's a
Well, the
change.
vote has come out this way so far, so.
But there's another vote coming.
Yes, but nobody can know what's gonna happen.
Right.
So right now, I say we come to them with, this is our current situation. We can't assume anything is going to happen. And if they negotiate the rates down and say, yes, you can come here at $9,000, so much the better. Because then if we get a vote back to 1.7, then we can go back to them and say, okay, we're willing to come back up a little bit, but quite honestly, the rates that Newport was expecting next year were a bit high. So if this gives us a little leverage to bring down the rates from the 18 that they were planning on building us for next year, I see it so much better.
So if they're not willing to negotiate, and they say, sorry, we're not taking any of your kids after seeing this letter, and then we get our budget back and go back and say, hey, please, what if they say no? What if they say no?
We already have the contract in place that says
But that letter says it's not right.
it's not enforceable if the town doesn't appropriate the funds.
Right.
And if you do appropriate the funds, then it's
So
fully
Newport
enforceable.
can also
Zoom call is
terminate
dropped again, Zoom's off again.
Yes, I know.
So Newport can also terminate the contract.
Newport can terminate the contract with 1 year's notice.
Just like we can. Anyway.
Okay, well, we're gonna terminate it with
We're not
not.
terminating it, we're saying that the money,
You're
the dollar
renegotiating.
amounts.
We're asking to change it.
Yeah.
That's what this says. It doesn't say terminate, right?
It's a renegotiation of rates within the contract.
The scary part is that these actual public schools would say, you know what, Croydon, we're done with your baloney, and we're not taking your kids, and then our people have no kids to go. It's very true.
And that's, they're already, Newport's already happy with us. I heard it in their last meeting, Newport's already has a whole list of things that we've done to them.
That we've done through them. I've been looking for their minutes. They haven't been posted from March 23rd. They're not up yet.
No,
there?
No, I watched it.
Oh.
You watched, yeah.
What were some examples of things that we were
Not paying tuition 20 years ago. We weren't able to pay our bills because we funded our budget properly and we couldn't pay tuition, so we got really behind. Something to do with
reneging on payment for lunch programs because we got,
That's,
sorry.
it's okay. So they said that, and I think for a long time we had food services through them. And the lady said that they would drive them up. We would complain that they were cold, and then we didn't end up paying for them. That's what one of the school board members said.
Okay.
I didn't know that part. I did know that we were very delinquent on our bills a few years ago.
I remember not billing us for months and months and months.
I know, and
Is that when that happened?
Right.
I don't know.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's just scary to think that if you send, when you send this letter, if they say, okay, we'll take the 9,000 that you were gonna give us, and this, but parents have to make up the difference, whatever, I mean, if that, which you shouldn't be doing that, but I'm just saying, if that's what it comes down to, Newport can still say, we're done dealing with you Croydon people, and Newport kids could not have a school because of what you guys are saying.
So what would be your suggestion?
I want you to put in that letter
Well,
that Newport, the kids that are going to Newport would still have an option to go to Newport
You're gonna be
if the vote goes
late.
through, or if parents can find a different way, or something to indicate that Newport won't just say, too bad, so sad, we're done dealing with your stuff. Like,
Well, that was part of the reason for having the draft and include a number, because it gives you a better chance of getting into a meeting as opposed to maybe saying no thank you before we even get to talk to them face to face.
I just feel like you guys are really trying to make it so our kids are gonna go without, but we don't care.
Can you just be upfront with them and let them know that as of right now, this is the budget we're working with, and the town is working on a new, if there will be a new vote, just so they know the whole scenario?
I mean, that was my suggestion, and
Yeah.
we haven't decided yet whether we're going to add that. So, shall we talk about that?
yeah,
So, I mean, to mention the May 7th meeting,
Yeah.
so we don't know how that's gonna end up. I mean, your point is that we'd still like to negotiate tuition with them, which I think is interesting. I mean, I love that idea. But under the current scenario, under the 800,000 clearly, but if the 1.7 gets voted in, then we still want to negotiate, but it's been appropriated, right? So that's funny, but that allows us in later years to negotiate, because now we know we can. We never knew we could before, actually.
well, according to the contract that's written and the language that I understand, we really only would have a leg to stand on to engage in negotiations when the town does not appropriate the money to support the contract.
Right.
If we support the contract with the appropriations, there's no reason to incur that clause in the contract.
We could just add some language that effectively says, we've examined our budget and determined that, assuming no further appropriations are made by the town, that we will be unable to commit to tuition.
That's nice, yeah.
You know, one of the students whose education is at stake here has had his hand up for probably 10.
I'm sorry, but this is a public comment session, I really apologize, but we're.
You've been taking comments from everyone.
I'm sorry, but we're discussing stuff right now, we have to actually get business done here. So.
We'll get to you.
I apologize, I didn't see your hand up at all.
Okay.
What do you think about that suggestion, Ken?
Okay, so with the interruption, I lost track of where we were at.
We could add some language that says, we have examined our budget in depth and determined that, assuming no further appropriations are made by the town, that we will be unable to commit to tuition amounts greater than 9,000. So it's acknowledging that there is this other meeting that no doubt they're aware of, and.
I'm pretty sure it's coming out.
No, it doesn't tell us anything.
But we could just go ahead and include in there that, you know, there is a special meeting set up for May 7, and it is possible that the town will reverse the previous vote for 800,000 and revert back to the 1.7 million. But under current circumstances, we at least have to proceed with what we've been given at the time.
Right.
And we can't assume that anything else will change.
Right, Right, but so you don't think we should put anything in the letter that says it might change? You just want to.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you're suggesting.
Yeah, we can go ahead and put it in.
Put it in, okay, right, I mean, because everybody knows it anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta weigh it out, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the downside is that there's a better chance that they say, we'll wait until.
Yep.
I mean, in fact, that's probably.
That's probably what this is.
So probably put that in, less likely to get a meeting for.
Before May 7th, right, so, and we would expect to meet after May 7th then.
That's what I would anticipate them saying.
Yeah, and that's fair. So we'll put something into that effect, and, I mean, we can even.
It would be nice to know sooner, of course, because, you know, people are gonna want to know where the kids are going, so.
But until the next district meeting happens, the special district meeting happens, we're just not gonna know. I mean, that's just.
And we still gotta discuss the offer letters for the current staff for the school.
Which we're also talking about after the May 7th meeting. Yeah. And we know, and we still have to talk about this budget with Beth.
Have we officially directed Friendship to send those letters saying that we're deferring the decision?
Okay,
Okay,
We
so
did. Yeah.
I remember him offering to, but I don't remember any of us saying yes, please do so.
I thought we did.
I think we should clarify.
Okay.
I don't want to miss that.
Okay. I believe it's in minutes.
Well, I will clarify.
Yeah.
Do you wanna clarify the names of that?
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna add along about that.
The Zoom meeting is still not working anymore.
Like, two people taking minutes apparently, so one of them, maybe they just don't have time. And Jody said she's taking minutes, but Aaron seems to be taking minutes. So apparently they're all taking minutes, so we should have no excuse for not having minutes on now.
Aaron's taking minutes tonight. That was stated at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, so I've got a note here that language will be added regarding the May 7th special district meeting.
Okay. Good. All right. Good.
What else in this letter? Any other thoughts?
Did you decide if you're including the tuition amount?
So I think we're not.
Now we're gonna.
Yes. So we're gonna send the second letter, the shortened version? What do you think?
Well, we can send either version and just exclude that 9,000 statement. If it's only one signature, we'll just.
Right, but the question is to refer to the RSA's or to just say we want to negotiate. Is it better to send?
I mean, my major personal feel is that I hate to be the guy that just brings stuff on somebody at a meeting. I'd rather give them all the information.
That's fair, that's transparent. Yes. Okay, so we'll send an edited version, a cleaned up version of the first one.
Yep.
Without that sentence, that whole sentence?
Actually, there's 2 points in whatever finishes the 9,000.
Okay.
No, the second one was stricken. I don't think you don't have all the markups on it.
Okay, so this we're going to.
Alright, so you think no number, and you think no number.
No. But so is it just striking that sentence? I mean, I can look at it all. From that, yeah, that whole sentence goes out.
Thank you for recognizing me. And I would like to give the floor to the young man over there so he can ask his question.
Thanks for the reminder.
So, my name is Thomas Spiker. I am going to be an upcoming senior, hopefully going to Newport next year. And I'm just curious if they don't take the $9,000 offer that we're giving per student there, and the $800,000 budget stays, if there was any plan for like any budget plan for Skills USA, FFA, things like that, because I know of at least myself and 2 other parents here who have kids that are going to be going into competitions for welding. I know there's many that go to FFA meetings and stuff like that. I'm curious if there was any plan for that, or if we were just cutting all trades off and stuff like that and planning on making everyone get office jobs.
Are those like private schools in the area or something?
No,
That's part of Newport.
They wouldn't do that, that's individualized learning.
I did contact the technical school, and they would be open to having students directly enroll with them, so it wouldn't have to go through Newport. I know they have an interest in keeping students that are already there. So I guess it would be another round of negotiations, but if, say, Newport closes the door and we can't send anybody there, there is still an option to send children to the technical school.
So SRPTC is technically a separate entity from Newport.
Yeah.
So right now, the students that go to Newport just automatically can be funneled into it because they have a standing agreement.
Okay.
We don't have any agreement at all with SRPTC. We could establish.
Okay, is there any plan towards that?
Well, they sound open to it, so we will. Why wouldn't we?
Okay, we're good. I'm just asking because you said you haven't done it yet.
We haven't
Well,
done.
there's a lot of things that we haven't been able to get to yet.
All right.
And certain things need to
And
happen
that's-
in a certain order, right? We need to establish what's happening in Newport first.
Right.
All right, well, I have one more question then. If we don't go to Newport, is there any plan for upcoming seniors for prom and things like that at all?
That's a very good question.
Barrel
I
Farm.
don't think anybody's brought that one up yet.
I mean, I can't speak to Newport. I know that at my high school, you didn't have to be a student at the school to go, but that's a good point. We should.
Good question,
It's a
buddy.
very good
Very
question.
good question.
Thank you, sir.
Now,
Thank you. So 2 things. We were confused here if the statement in the letter about the May 7th meeting is in short letters, short letter. The statement about the May 7th meeting, is that in both the letters?
right now it's in neither, but we were talking about adding to it.
I thought you guys agreed to add to it. Maybe I
Yes,
misheard.
yes, in either version of the letter that we send out, it will be included in it.
Okay. And my other request is that the letters have a statement that requests that both districts, Newport and Sunapee, hold the positions for the students who are currently going there until this is sorted out. So that the parents who are losing sleep every night and the kids who don't know what's going on would at least know the place would be held while things are sorted out.
That's a great idea.
That's a very good idea.
So I applaud that decision, but I think that if you're gonna go that way with Newport, you should also go that way with Montessori, who's already full. So if they don't think we're going, and they take these kids out.
We do. We've spoken to Montessori. They know.
I'm just trying to make sure, because I have not heard that from anyone.
No, I
This
would
was the
think
first time that was brought up from any of the schools.
I think
For
that
that
idea
question.
would be applicable to all our schools.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna have a couple of sentences, we're gonna make notes about those. So this letter, adding a couple sentences, I'll run a final version by everybody. Sounds good, all right, so that's that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is sending a mailer to the town. So it was suggested that we send everybody, that way they know about this educational meeting. Right, I think that was the main reason for sending the mailer out, so everybody's aware of Kai and Brenda coming out to talk. Is that correct?
No.
No.
I think they wanted to mail to advertise that we
The May 7th meeting? Oh,
Yeah.
they came up way before the May 7th meeting was up, that idea, so,
Well,
I mean, that's fine.
I think it came up before we had a date, but we did ask that the school board, do some sort of mailer or notification to all residents to let them know.
Okay, good.
About the meeting,
About the meeting.
Yes.
about the meeting on May 7th, not a mailer and a waste of
When was
money.
that?
To the town about Brenda and Kai. Have them come to the school board meeting if they wanna learn about it, but don't waste your money on sending a mailer.
Oh, so you're talking about kind of Kai.
She's talking
I
about
know,
sending a letter.
I know.
Yes.
But we just clarified what we had.
The original idea, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
so maybe
saying,
it's save the date or something.
What was that date again? Gotta be some way out of this sometime.
This is tough stuff.
So that, honestly, that's the main thing, is to let everybody know about the district. Anything else that should go on mailing? I mean, I think we should talk about the general plan, and summarizing what's going on there, maybe some people in town?
You could give a summary of, what's transpired so far in the meetings to date since the election, and say these are the options that we have come up with to address the 800,000 if it stands.
Yeah.
And if you want it to not stand, this is the date to come out and make your voice heard.
I would respectfully request that the mailing to townspeople take the format that most towns do, that it simply presents the warrant article.
correct.
I don't,
And the
I
date, time,
vigorously
place.
oppose the idea of anything that could be perceived as lobbying for one version or another.
Agreed.
Date, time, place. The article.
Who, what, where, when?
There's been a lot of coverage already of what's been transpiring.
There's what?
Been a lot of coverage already.
Yeah.
That
Right.
people can access about what's been transpiring.
Right.
True, some of them get it right, some of them don't.
Right.
So that's why it's kind of a good idea to put it out.
Well, I'm not sure you get it right.
Yeah, but then it's your version as well,
Right, so
right?
I think that if we get the mailer out with the date and the time, if people have questions, they're going to come. I mean, you have your emails out there for people to ask you questions. People know in town, Andy's email, my email, because we have it on Croydon pages and whatever, so I think that.
I'm not sure what you're actually saying.
I don't think any other information is necessary, because people have a way to ask you questions if they need to, or whatever. Just keep it simple with the date, the time, the warrant article, and where it's gonna be.
And non-political.
Non-political,
Yeah.
yeah, just very simple, to the point.
That's reasonable.
And I don't feel like that's a bad ask, and I feel like we're paying for it anyways, right? I mean, the town pays for it, so it really should be, the majority of people here think that's how it should be, so.
Take a vote to see if that's actually true.
Okay, well, are you asking us to vote?
I'm not, thank you. I just, these statements are fascinating.
I mean, what is your resistance to it, Jody? Honestly, we want the date, the time, and the place of the meeting on May 7th. What is the problem with just sending out a little postcard? I mean, the less information, the cheaper it is for you. So, what is the problem with it?
So you're thinking a postcard?
Even a postcard would be great. I'd love to get a postcard and just have it be that simple.
I don't know the way the mailers work, but we'll figure it out.
I'll put the stamps on them if you'd like.
I don't think it works like that. I think you can.
Well, I can. I'm just offering my
I
help, but
appreciate that.
trying to save you time.
Thank you.
Date, time, place.
What do y'all think?
I think it's reasonable to just keep it simple, stupid, just
Yes.
put the date, time of the meeting and location, obviously, because it's not a typical location, and that should probably actually be highlighted, because I think a lot of people might miss that. And just the brief one paragraph statement of what the warrant article that's going to be presented at the meeting.
That can't be a small postcard, so, okay, that settles that. It has to be at least a half page thing. Okay. I'm just trying to think it through. I mean, it's a paragraph. The warrant article, small postcard. But anyway, that's a detail.
And I know the warrant article will show that it's recommended by the school board as it is in the part town meeting materials. So they understand this is being recommended by the school board.
Well, is it though?
You did recommend that, and yes, the original warrant article should be written as
But no, so if we want to be factual, a petition is what's bringing this district meeting together, the special district meeting, not the school board.
We're asking for the
That's
warrant
factual.
We're asking for the warrant article.
The original
That
article.
originally stated, suggested by the board.
Right, but this time it's suggested by the petition.
Wow.
Yep.
Is that inaccurate? Is that inaccurate?
Yes, because we're voting on the
So you-
original warrant article that you suggested to the town.
You could put as if this was the one, as, I don't know,
And she doesn't want it.
As originally suggested by the school board and presented at the town meeting, the vote is on the 1.7.
Something to
Why?
that effect could be in there, but also the fact that it's a petition warrant article. You seem to be against that.
No, wait, no.
I thought you said no. Sorry, misheard.
I think if you want to keep it completely impartial, you would stick with just the language that's in the, that's actually in the petition that we're talking about.
In the petition.
Oh, really? Now they don't want to mention that, okay.
It's not saying that I don't know. It's saying that it was originally proposed at the district meeting, I don't have a problem.
It's good to know.
It was really suggested by you.
It's good to know.
Supported by the school board.
Right, whatever that language is, yeah, I'm not arguing with that.
It's right there.
But I don't know, what do you think about that? Because it's
So
not.
basically the town.
Sorry.
Yeah, I understand, I was just deliberating and
Sorry,
telling you.
excuse us. You're
Um,
right. We're
so-
talking about it.
I would think that if the meeting is being scheduled as a result of the petition, then whatever language and however it was written out in the petition should be the language that should be presented to the town.
I agree,
So
yes.
I don't remember the language of the petition off the top of my head, but if it includes that statement as recommended by the school.
And it doesn't,
board, then it should include it.
then it probably shouldn't.
Well, you may have to check, not for the mailer, but I think the actual RSA part of the actual warrant specifies that you have to say whether you recommend it or not.
That was
I'm
the,
not sure.
not for the petition, for the special meeting, this is a petition meeting, that's what it is.
I'm just saying it's something to check.
It's something to check, okay.
I don't know if it says that or not, but it does for the regular meeting, right?
For regular, yeah, I mean, we'll look, this is like 187.3 or something, right?
This is, to me, it's infuriating, honestly, because there is obviously no support for the petition and everything. Like, you presented the $1.7 million budget, right? But you are not backing it up because you had somebody, your husband, stand up, knock down to $800,000, and you're like, okay, no, this is what I'm supporting now. I'm supporting my husband in the $800,000. You should have just presented the $800,000 at the goddamn town meeting.
Jerry, if we're, done with the mail, should we at public forum?
I think we are, yeah.
Are we there?
Apparently we are, it's already been taken hostage.
Does anybody mind if I use the restroom just for-
Oh, that's a little bit of a stretch. Don't-
All right, so we're gonna send a mailer, and we are ready now for public forum.
just have a question. Aaron, Brenda, when did you start working, hearing about so on and so forth on
The week of the district meeting, so it was on a Saturday. I think I heard about it on Monday when I started researching.
that? So you knew nothing about this Brenda company?
I never heard of it before. No.
And Jody?
I hadn't heard of it during COVID, yeah.
And you never did any research with it until after this?
I did not.
Interesting.
So super disturbing, because I have zero problem saying like it is so, and it just since we're there, it's either A, you guys are super, super unprepared, or it's B, you're absolutely manipulative and non-transparent. And again, it's our children that unfortunately are gonna suffer for that, and since it's just public comment, I think it's absolutely unacceptable, and I think it's absolutely ignorant of you guys to think that the people sitting in this room are uneducated or unaware of the different statements that you guys have made, whatever the platform is. And just as a human, it's really, 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 really sad. In the world I live in, I'm responsible for holding people accountable. I also have a boss who's responsible for holding me accountable, and I'm super curious who's responsible for holding the three of you accountable and what we are doing right now. Because, and again, I'm new to this, and this is definitely a different world than any school board meeting or anything that I've participated in any other town. So I'm just very curious if you guys can educate me on who is responsible for holding the three of you accountable.
You.
Thank you. Thank you. I am super sad that I am going to town a little bit earlier and get this all established. It is absolutely unacceptable. So, and again, individualized learning, doesn't matter if you weld, if you're a good reader, you're good at math, or you're good at soccer, individualized learning is exactly that. Is that different people are good at different things, and that's just a fact. And they should be offered those opportunities to succeed in whatever that looks like to the best of our ability. It's super, super sad to participate in all this over the last several weeks. If we truly have children who are eventually going to take care of us, yes, if you want to think about that, they're going to take care of us. I'm super sad. I mean, what I have participated in, particularly working with individuals who don't end up with a good education and what that looks like, you know, and down the line for them. So I guess it's us. So I guess it's just the beginning, regardless. Sorry.
So I have a question for you, Jody, as an elected official, elected by the people. Since our annual meeting, we've had, I want to say record numbers at these meetings. I don't know if that technically qualifies for record numbers. But we've had higher attendance than any, and then ever before. And you have heard all of us expressing our displeasure with the current situation, our mistrust of the board. At the last meeting, residents called for your resignation 3 times, and yet you continue to push your agenda. You go home, you log on to your Free State Project page, you post homes for sale in the area, and encourage people to buy houses and move here to take advantage of your 20% approach to learning. So I want to know what it's going to take from us for you to start pushing our agenda. We've told you what we want. You're elected by us, and you should be acting for us. So when are you going to stop pushing your agenda and start pushing ours?
I mean, I want to see what the district vote comes to. Then we'll see what the majority of the town says. Because I represent the taxpayers, not just the parents.
Okay,
So not all the taxpayers, to be fair.
And that is true. I understand that you do have a fiscal responsibility to every single taxpayer.
Exactly.
I understand that. But we are feeling like not one of you is working for us. Like there's 3 of you. We voted for you. At least one of you needs to be representing what we want and what we need. And we don't feel like any of you are doing that. None.
So to respond to that, what we have right now is an $800,000 budget that we have to figure out how to make work. And that's what we're working on. And and in my opinion, and you know, I mean, you can agree with me or not, but what I want to do is, and with this individualized learning thing, right? I mean, I think.
What do you mean individualized learning? You're not preparing kids for the world of what you're presenting.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I believe
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's not.
that, I mean, what I want to do is provide a good education for all students. I do. And you know that I do.
And so that's what frustrates me, I think, because I served 8 years by your side, Julie, and we did good work, and I had good intentions. And this makes me feel like it was just part of your bigger plan, and it really discredits the work that we did on the board, and that is so heartbreaking for me. Completely heartbreaking. And I understand needing and wanting to renegotiate these contracts. Yes, Newport tuition is high. But why are we just thinking to do that?
We should
Why
have done
haven't
this
we
years
done
ago.
that before?
I'll tell you why. In my opinion, you tell me what yours is as a former school board member. Did you think that we had to take whatever they gave us as tuition? I did. I felt I was advised to that that's what the law said we had to do, and now I'm finding out that's not true. I've just opened a black box that was always just closed to me. So even if that, you know, the district meeting, the special district meeting and the 1.7 gets passed, I still want to go to Newport for the next contract and really negotiate down.
And I want you to do that. I wrote that down, like, I think that we absolutely need to do that, but I want you to do that anyway.
Well, you know what?
To get this budget back so that we can do that and still serve all of these kids that we provided an incredible opportunity to, or for.
Right. So maybe, right, so 1.7 will give them all we want, so maybe it should be less than that, so that we can go back to them and say the appropriation isn't enough, let's negotiate. That's one way to go.
I just want you to work for us, with us, for us, please.
So, one thing I just want to keep in mind, like, I know we've talked about how Newport is high, and the other thing, part of that is every student that goes to Newport gets to go to the tech center as well, and that's included. If that's separate than like Sunapee, who it's not included. So Sunapee is lower, or Montessori is lower, or whatever, but they don't have the tech center built into their price. So Newport probably does ask for a little more because they also give us this.
So what you don't know is that Sunapee and Newport started at the same amount, and Newport just kept going up.
Well, because their prices went up as well. So, and that's, it's not maybe, but I mean, you can ask them,
Well, their per student cost has gone up, that's for sure.
Okay. So I just wanted to point out that if we do separate, and Aaron said that he spoke to the tech center and that they would accept our students, again, we're gonna have to pay on top of that. So it's not just paying Pi or Printer or whatever, we're also gonna have to pay the tech center. And so I'm just saying, Newport includes that, so yes, they are more, but they give more opportunity to our students.
I just want to comment in regards to representing the taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer. I do not have children benefiting from this system anymore. I think it's a great mistake to think that this is only about the parents of the current school children. Education should be accessible to all, no matter what your needs are, and it's valuable for the society. And I am not the only taxpayer in this town who doesn't have kids in the system and won't have any, who thinks this matters.
Just going on board with that is a question of whatever happens at the special meeting, say the vote happens and it's only 200 people, but the result is 190 of them support going back to the original budget. Is that going to change your view on this situation at all? Because right now we're talking about, it was the legal vote of the town, the 20 people, and that would not technically be legal, but it still is a statement that's happened, that X number of people, we don't know what will happen, like you said, but if 150, 200, 250 vote in support of going back to the original budget, will that change your thoughts at all?
I don't think the vote's gonna happen if you don't get 283 people there.
I don't know.
I think that's how that
I
works.
think it's worth reading the
That's
RSA.
not the question he asked you.
But that's the
So,
answer is there won't be a vote. We won't know what that number is.
is that the point of your question?
No, my point, well, I don't know, I mean, you can question, that's probably a question for the moderator, what the RSA says about the special meeting, because as I read it, it says the number of ballots cast, it won't be, valid unless the number is over half the amount. It doesn't say the vote will not happen, or the vote will only happen.
But no, you're right, that's what's looking at.
So, I mean, it's more just a question philosophically for you guys, in the big picture.
Yeah, I was under the impression that if the quorum wasn't met, the vote wouldn't happen, and so there would be no.
Right.
But if what you're saying is correct, boy, that's something to think on.
How do we clarify? How do we know? I mean, RSAs are so.
I'll have to get there kind of.
Assume the moderator.
And sometimes one refers back to 3 before it that you have to understand in order to understand this one. It's just, it's mind-numbing.
Well, we certainly could take a non-binding vote.
Yeah.
If we didn't have 300 people, but we are going to have 300 people.
To answer your question, I mean, for me, obviously it would be non-binding, so I think we'd still be stuck, but for sure, I mean, at least for me, it would inform my opinion, because it would be a large number of people represented there. So.
I would agree with that.
So, but it still poses the problem, if it's a non-binding vote, yes, there's a big group of people that clearly want to go back to the 1.7, but if it's non-binding, we still only have 800 to spend.
Yeah.
We're only going to appropriate that 800.
Right.
So we still have that problem too.
Right.
Or we go into debt and look forward to next year having to pay all that back.
Go to deficit and not be able to pay the bills.
So,
Just like Newport was accusing us from last time, right? Same thing. Sorry.
so I mean, it's still something that has to be considered.
That's been up for a while.
Yeah, Judy, I just have a question for Erin. Erin, when you're talking about the amount that you are pushing students out for, and I know you're playing around with $8,000-9,000, how many students are you actually looking at that number? 51 kids, 81 kids, and we think we have 81 kids in the district to educate. Is this the 5 through 12 that we're talking? And what's that number that you are taking at tuition amount?
I think next year we're looking at 75 kids from K to 12, right?
It was the same number that was in the original budget, so I just used those same numbers of children that we had budgeted for. K to 4 and growing those children, and the rest being tuition down.
Because one of the things that I have, because have been looking at your proposed options, and one of the things that I'm thinking about, that as you're looking at a high number towards that $9,000 mark, but you have special ed, you still have SAU costs, because you still need some administration. So I know we've been talking about take the 800 and take off the 145, but you have to think about your guidance, which is some of the, your special ed, your school board, which is your auditing services, some of your SAU costs, and your transportation. So I think as you're looking simplistically at that 800,000 and taking the 145 out, there actually are many other fixed costs that are bringing that 800 down to maybe more like 550 or 500. And then you have to pay Chi or Penda, maybe to keep K4 open, and then your tuition amount. So I think in being fully transparent, throwing out $9,000 to cover all those kids just doesn't feel like it's matching.
Well, being fully transparent, if Chi or Printa were implemented here, we only pay per student. So it's 5,000 to 9,000 depending, I guess. Which one is it? Chi, they can choose some of the curriculums that they choose.
Chi, you choose, you have to.
Might take it up to 9,000 depending on which curriculum they choose.
Some might do less.
So we're still looking at a maximum of 9,000 per kid under those two programs. So you still are able to kind of calculate, like if every kid chose the 9,000 program under Chi, and there were 10 kids left that still wanted to go out, you still have 9,000 per kid. So
okay,
you can
and
kind of
so
predict.
it's important that
understanding, I'm just kind of looking at those numbers just a little bit deeper, because there are more fixed costs
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
than just special ed. And I think that's important that people know.
Transportation.
That brings you, and transportation, and some SAU, whatever those costs are, and your auditing costs, which are in the budget under school board, which is, I believe, a $10,000 amount that comes up. So I think not just thinking about 145 off the top, it's a lot larger of a number.
Yes, it is.
To be
I think the 145 is just the one that keeps coming up.
Yeah, but that's, yeah. But
I
you have to
just want to
remember,
be clear
it's a
about
lot
one
more
thing.
than that.
I've said this before, but I just want to make sure it's clear that the model that has the $9,000 figure does not get you to $800,000. No, so I agree with you, and so does the model. But the 9,000 seemed like
Hardest one in the room.
a number where if you go below that, you're really struggling to find anybody that can take the children. So to me, that's like, you can't really go much lower than that.
So we haven't found a model yet that we can do at 800.
Yeah. So
The best we can do is limit how much,
So
over budget.
and that will get you between 900,000 and $1 million-ish if you go with the 9,000 model.
And then what we have the benefit for the next 2 years is that the State Department of Ed will actually cover the cost for Prenda and for COT. So.
For 2 years.
Just for 2 years, that's right.
It's never a break.
Sorry, I'm still talking. So, you know, the $800,000 was just this number, right? And it's not based in reality, we all know that. So if we do go into a small deficit, our taxes are not gonna skyrocket. With a small deficit, as I understand some people are saying it's going to. But it allows us, for the state board, for the State Department of Ed to be covering some of the costs for the first year, 2 years actually, that in a year we'll know better what the actual costs are and our budget will actually reflect reality. So that would be the idea. Does it make sense?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, the whole thing is, someone came before the board and said, $800,000, that's all it costs to educate our children. And you guys were like, okay, sure. And you did not ever once tell the townspeople when they were here that that was not going to be able to happen. And now,
We didn't know it.
you most certainly had an idea because you suggested $1.7 million. So you had some idea that $800,000 was not.
Let me show you a video. Let me show you a video of how long you have been working on this.
You read all your stuff. Come on, man. I can't do that.
So, I just wanted clarification on something. So, when you're saying the Brenda and the Kai, and you've only been talking about it, you said you just started looking into it a couple months ago, then why?
Weeks ago.
Weeks ago.
After
Then
the
why?
district meeting.
Can I finish? You to finish. I'd like to finish my sentence. Thank you. In December, you were on a podcast or whatever with someone, and that's all you did is talk about Brenda. I've got it. If you want to see it, I'll pass you the link. It was passed down to me. And I sat there, and I gotta say it was not, to me, I don't like to watch that kind of stuff. I don't watch a lot of things, because they're boring, no offense, but in this case, it affected the kids. And I looked at it and I read it, both you and your husband up there with some girl, which I can look it up and get her name, and it was all on video, and all you did in December is talk about these two groups, and how you wanted that you have been working to get this done. Well, congratulations, you did it, but at the cost of what?
I would really like to see
I would gladly give you a link. Would you like me to do it now?
There's a whole 30-minute interview that you and your husband did with her.
And you don't remember?
Talking about high and micro schools and exactly your plan.
That was what the podcast was about?
It was a whole interview.
Part two. Hold
And
on.
then in March, we would talk about how you were going to implement that. We're happy to send it. We could share it if you like. We could plug right in and all watch this. Don't
Yeah, that'd be nice. I haven't had someone to go for it.
Talking about your charter school and how charter schools were like a cancer metastasizing to the rest of the world. Really?
Of course.
You guys obviously don't give us enough
Want to take it, write it down?
That's right.
Would you like me to read it to you?
Right here, actually, I know where it is, I know where to find it.
Then you should. Maybe you should review your own speech, you and your husband. Because I'm not lying about anything, and I have anything I can back up.
I'm gonna.
Just like also,
We talked about charter schools.
then I know was you brought up all of this. And how you were working.
I mentioned micro schools.
Yes.
You said micro schools, you did not say Kai and Friendly, but you talked about that. But it, honestly, Joe, seriously, I mean.
I do believe there was an.
Sorry, so for public comment, really, one at a time.
I also had something else with your budgeting. And you're saying that Newport said that we wouldn't pay for certain meals. Those meals, you should have a lot of them. Anytime because I was doing lunches for years, for close to 15, 16 years, I've done lunches. Every time we got moldy bread, I sent a note. I go to Constance, use my own money, and get the kids bread, hot dog, hamburger rolls, whatever we needed, so they did not get mold. And that was under Dave Spadal or White or whatever his name is. Anyway, he's no longer with them, and I wonder why. When we got food, that plums that you couldn't pick up, because your fingers went through them. I'd go to the store and buy the kids some vegetable or fruit to replace it. And I would write a note. So you should have notes everywhere, because unfortunately I didn't save that. But I did turn them in every month that this food on this day had mold. I even took pictures. Unfortunately, that phone is long since gone. But at the time I said, I have photographic evidence of anything you want to see. Potato chips, but when they took them out, they just were limp. I'd go to the store and buy them. So I don't understand how they said we complained about mold. Because at that time, I was under SafeServe, which is a food service license through Concord, because I was also doing catering on my own. Can't do that anymore. But I had thermometers. I checked the food when I picked it up. It was in Cambro, either cold or hot. I brought it here. I did the temperature again before I set it on trays.
So can I think that you're speaking to something I mentioned earlier about Newport complaining, or what Newport stated that we said and did as far as food services.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Because I'm the one that mentioned that they said in their meeting that we complained that the food was cold or whatever and didn't pay. So I don't know that they know anything about that.
Okay,
And so,
it was mold. It was either mold or so disgusting it could
and
not be served.
we don't use their
I know.
service. No, you know, of course you know. Of course you know.
Right.
So, I think you're responding to something I said and they don't even know.
I'm sorry, I just figured the school
I don't
board
know if there's any
who
truth
was-
to it. I mean, they said it, but I don't know that there was really any evidence of that. Like, they haven't had it hasn't been presented to them, so it's something.
I apologize then, it's just that I don't figure out when that got to a way to the person serving and say, hey.
Right.
Because I wrote notes on every single thing. Every menu, I kept a copy and wrote on it and passed it in.
I'm sorry,
That's okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Off track, but it just hit me like, wait a minute.
You want good food,
I'm sorry, I'm just, it's so crazy, I got lost. Is it public participation time? I just know I have to ask,
It has been since 7:47.
Yes. Because I did have something I wanted to
I just want you to know, I mean, I said a half hour and I really mean it, because 8:17 is when I'm gonna call it, so.
All right, can I talk really fast then?
Go ahead.
Because I've been waiting.
Go ahead.
I've been like a broken record, I know, and I probably annoyed you, saying again and again and again, we really need to know the answer to this. Who has talked to the state and gotten the guarantee that Brenda and Kai can be the only program, and who did you talk to?
It's going to be a free program.
Right, okay.
And we spoke to the 4 different people in the Department of Ed.
Okay, because I have calls to Chris and Una today, because I am holding in my hand the letters that the governor signed, and it's very clear. And then I went to the Recovering Bright Futures, which is what the contract's on, and that is very clear. And I'm not, obviously, we're on time, so we go fast, but it basically says that this is
learning so they may catch up with their peers. And I've got this whole thing, I gave it 1030 points too, but it says this is to mitigate potential student learning loss, and social emotional disruption resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. This programming is designed to complement the many efforts each LEA will be employing and fill in where traditional programming might not be effective. It also says that students may transition back to their classroom cohort at any time during the program, and it says it as well. It is very, very clear that this grant money is made for an addition, not for the primary program. And I've been reading, I've been on my computer, I looked up the details of the Recovering Bright Futures program, and it definitely says in every part that students, parents, or the pod people, you have the right to be back in a normal public classroom. And I keep asking, and I've said it last time, I think that if this is our main program, we're in trouble. Because it's supposed to be supplement. And per the grant and per our governor's signature, so that Julia will say, you know what, I don't need this, and need a public classroom. And I worry.
So
that's all.
I haven't seen that letter. I would guess it was.
This is the, if you look it up, which, I mean, I can do it, so I know you can, because you're better at this than I am. It's the actual Prenda contract.
From the beginning, from like 2 years ago.
Right, but I checked that, and when they renewed the contract, they did not change the contract. They renewed it as is, okay? So that's what I'm saying, Jody, and I ask every week. I don't have a lawyer.
I mean,
I know you guys are talking to a lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, it's straight right there for the state of New Hampshire.
Yes.
This is to, it's like, I would, now this is a poor example, but I would relate it to Title I services or something like that, you know, where you're giving extra to catch up or to supplement and when to get a child extra, and then you would release them back into not needing it anymore. Now, I'm not saying that it hasn't been done before other ways. It is, but those are specifically the private ones, you know, and they also they support that as well. But there's definitely a
The
line.
state supports those too, so right?
That's what I'm saying,
Yes.
they support those as well. But there's definitely a line of which ones from a school system and which ones stepping away as an alternative education. And I'm afraid that we're gonna get busy, people are gonna sign things, and realize that that's not the case that we can't do it. So I really hope, because I know you said you talked to lawyers and talked to people at the state,
But we
that
haven't
you've
had
got a
lawyers
piece of
do
paper
that.
that says,
Right.
you can do this as your only choice.
Maybe something we could do, Jody, is to get something in writing by sorry, what's Frank?
Commissioner.
Because he said it.
This is written by Frank.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
This is Frank Elkins.
And that was
It's 2
something-
years ago, he did not amend it. No one took advantage of it, so the money sat there, and so they had lots of money, and they said, well, let's just continue it on. And the actual contract was re-signed as is, and as is, it says you have to have a conventional, or not conventional, but a regular public school classroom as a choice for that child.
So I guess my point is that Frank has told, I actually was able to speak to him once, he told me directly that yes, this can be used and we will pay for it. But to your point, maybe we ask him to put that in the writing.
I think you're gonna have to. Because other than that, I'll tell you, lawsuits, that's all I'm gonna say. Or give me money, I'm sending my child to somebody.
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna call that.
And I'm not saying this to be angry, I just, anything that we do as a town,
Yeah, we don't want to get caught
we
later.
want to make sure we're following the
Of
law.
course, no, absolutely. That makes sense. Thank you for that.
Can I ask one last question about Friday? About Friday's meeting, the budget hearing? I'm just curious how it will run, because it seems like it's not
no longer your budget.
Right.
So you develop it, you're not recommending it. Normally you would go through the budget. So how will it differ from what is typical?
So had Beth been here, I would have asked her to do the presentation of the budget, and I will ask her to do that.
Will she be on first?
Got it.
We'll try her from wherever she is.
She had stated that she would.
Oh, right, she did say that.
Yes. All right, next meeting is Friday, April 8th, 6:30 here. Motion to,
And I guess we're holding on scheduling another one until we know from another school staff, right, on what day available.
yeah, you need to figure that out. Yeah, so right, next week we'll have something to address the microschool questions. One evening. So motion, I move to adjourn.
Second.